show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. This is Egberto Willis, your host. Of course, good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and every part of the country receiving these signals from our 100,000 watt transmitter, maintained, of course, and made and engineered by the one and only Howard Reynolds with the assistance of Jack Van Beba. Anyway, folks, we're going to have a great show for you today as we welcome, including the rest of the world, specifically folks in Spain, folks in Portugal, folks in England, and all those places from which I've gotten a chat or something. Thank you so kindly for listening to Politics Done Right. Before we get started, let's get to the house. Let's get to the studio. And Caroline, ¿cómo estás?
Oh, here we are checking in from Caroline Street in beautiful Houston, Texas, which is still dark outside and wet. And good morning to Taipei.
Yeah, I love that. Taiwan.
Why not? There's got to be somebody over there listening. Good morning, Egberto. Things are well here. The tin cans and string held up over the weekend, so I didn't get too many calls. We got this Sheila Jackson Lee tribute coming up here shortly. And on Thursday, it's a special broadcast. We want to talk about that. We will talk about that as time comes along. We're still forming something here. But it's going to be a delightful thing in honor of the fallen comrade, Sheila Jackson Lee. So we'll have more information on that as it develops. We got something in development right now. And you know what? John is on the phone already this morning. I've already answered the phone. Yeah, I know. So they're anxious to talk about whatever it is we're going to talk about.
Of course, my screener is not up yet. I think I did my part, but we'll see.
Oh, well, sometimes those are really not tin cans and string. Those are more like widgets.
It's the widgets.
The widgets are now working just fine. So
I see the widget.
John is untitled there on your screen, but he is in the queue, and we'll speak to him shortly. Jack has about a half a page of wisdom over here, which I cannot hardly wait to hear.
Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, Jack. Now that I'm hearing your voice after missing it on Friday, I am in a great state of mind.
I'm telling you.
Sometimes you go outside and you just know it's that kind of day that won't turn out well. So I turned around. My little car is only like 4 inches off the ground, so
mine is too.
And you can't see in the rain. You can't even see the lane sometimes. So
well, we don't want you swimming. We don't want you having to swim out of the car or losing that relic. I love your car. That car used to make some good movies in the fast car sequence.
Yeah, it'll get you in trouble.
Yeah,
it's a zippy little car.
Anyway, my sister bought me a T-shirt, and it states Lebowski 2024. This aggression will not stand, man.
I love that. But you know what else? Go ahead.
You know who Lebowski is, the Big Lebowski.
Yes, I do. But you know what, Jack? You realize this is the shortest that you've ever given one. I don't even know what to do with myself.
Well, I hadn't even done my piece yet. I was just
okay.
This aggression will not stand, man. Is America the aggressor on the world stage? I say yes. Since the introduction of neoliberal economic policies under Reagan, the rich have only gotten richer. This wealth has emboldened the wealthy to the point where they want it all. America is building an empire. Now, what happens when you throw in a psychopath?
Hey,
You don't want
man,
to know. Mix in
that
one
that
psychopath, and you don't want to know what's going to
yeah.
happen. It's
Look,
kind of like those lab experiments that explode.
a lot of people, Jack, when you make those comments, because I've also seen them in the emails, a lot of times they don't get it because we are so what is the word? We see everything through colored glasses. In other words, we don't actually see what happens. And one of the things that you said when you talk about the rich and economic system, etc., is we have the greatest. Our form of economics is the greatest abstracting system. By that I mean we see the very nice part of it. You ride through Houston, you see downtown Houston with nice, beautiful buildings. You go to the parks in Houston, you have some very nice parks. And I mean, things are just pretty and beautiful. What you don't see is what is the back end of what got all those things. And the back end that get all those things or got all those things ain't all that pretty. And too often we don't want to know about it. We don't want to talk about it. But beyond that, there's a lot of suffering that occurs. And I wish for one, we would grow that empathetic nerve to really go there because it's not just a few. It's actually the many. But thanks for those words. Those are great
I
words,
can
sir.
You're welcome.
I
You're
can
welcome.
take you to parts of town that you would not want to see.
Yes,
That this dangerous to drive through during the daytime.
yes,
So
yes,
yeah, there's one Houston, then there's the underbelly, and you don't want to go there.
exactly. And the funny thing about it is, it's the underbelly, and they always say things like if it bleeds, it leads, that sort of stuff. But there are certain places that a lot of things happen, and nobody goes there, nobody knows. And when you talk about Houston, Howard, it is just a microcosm of the entire America. But anyhow,
Mm.
let's see. The title of the show today is as follows: Trump's Freudian slip. Donna Brazil's dings Trump sycophant, and Fareed Zakaria gets it right. Trump implies there won't be elections if he gets elected. Fareed Zakaria gets the Biden legacy primarily right. And Donna Brazile did not mince her words with a Trump pundit that needed to be said. But since we have a caller, and since I always give precedence to our listener, except if I have something that I absolutely think I must say on that specific time, let's go ahead and bring Brother John into the fold. John, you're hot.
Good morning, Bethany.
Good
Good
morning,
morning.
sir.
Good morning. I think I can lead into that subject that because of misinformation, and I ran into that Friday, and it came from a call that I had called you and told you that I had a fear when VP Harris was the obvious nominee, that was America ready for not only another black, but another black woman or a
Hmm.
black woman. And I told you I had this fear, and it prompted Friday through social media that my wife happened to have a young lady that friended her a while back, who's a friend of a friend, and she was privy to a conversation between three young, what you would call Latinas,
Uh-huh.
and two of them served in the military. And what they were talking about is exactly when Trump says something, believe him. And when he says something, even if it's negative, it's what he's planning to do, and he throws it at you, just like you're talking about. He sits there and says that. Well, don't take it as just misinformation. He means it. He means that you won't be allowed to vote. That's the real truth. And what these Latinas were talking about is they were against VP Harris because they're saying, oh, well, you know about her. She's vindictive. And she
Hmm.
was a prosecutor, an attorney general, and they're painting that like that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking to myself, how did these Latinas, where did they hear this? this is information that was put out during the primary back 4 or 5 years ago. And yet
Yes.
here it is, fresh, thrown at you, and it affects these girls. Well, my wife couldn't help it. She had to answer them just because it's so wrong. They're so misinformed. But that's what scares me, is that those 3 young ladies or 4 young ladies are going to go vote. And they already have this impression. And so what happens is the Democratic Party isn't really pushing the one thing they should push. And I even think these pundits on TV ought to push it. You're talking about a convicted sexual predator. Convicted is the key word. What choice do you have? You'd rather vote for him than vote for a former prosecutor, a former attorney general, because you think somebody told you she's vindictive?
Let me go ahead and answer that this way, and because you are, I don't only see that in the Latino community. I see that in just about every community, the white community, the black community. There is something about when women run, not to say when a black South Asian woman run, and that is some of the biggest the people that are the most critical of women in politics and women in anything are women. And that is what that comes from and I'm not a woman, so please, women, call and scold me if necessary, but this is my observation looking in. It seems to me the same thing that I've seen in the Latino community, the same thing that I've seen in the black community, the same thing that I've seen in the Filipino community, and it's a thing called self-hate, right? And it's something that is hard to overcome. What's reflected is what the supremacist has placed in the minds of everybody, right? So therefore, somebody like our Latino sisters that went ahead and said that about Harris, that is their current state of belief. And I think all of that is going to happen and all of that is overcomable. Let me give an example. Since Harris came out with a positive message, one of the things that I said, and I'll put it in, there's a piece that I have to play. I don't know if I'll get a chance to play it. One of the things that I said is, you have to go out there and, yes, you knock Trump for the evil that he has done and the evil that he is, but that's not what's going to win you the election. Winning you the election is going to come from you making that case, that positive case. I pointed out that I never thought it was time for Obama to win in the country. I thought the country was still too racist to elect an Obama. Obama superseded that by not fallen for that. He went out there and he campaigned and he got his message out. He had the money to get his message out. Kamala, hear me, Kamala, listening to Trump. Kamala has the message, or rather the money to get the message out. And guess what is a great thing? It's actually working. She went from how do a VP like her have a 36% favorability rating? That's what it was last week. Guess what it is this week?
Yeah.
43%. And that is just from the message getting out. And not only the message getting out, but telling folks, this is what it means to have me as your president. So I'm telling everybody, don't be fearful. Yeah, tell the truth. Right now, the media, and this came, Matthew Dowd, who used to be a Republican, now became a Democrat, as well as Steve, I forgot his last name, another Republican turned Democrat because of Trump. What they continuously say is we have a media that plays both sides. In other words, a media that tries to put a false balance in, and that false balance has given Trump plausibility. If it were any other candidate, nobody with such a terrible record, nobody with such a that has shown to have raped women, that has shown to have ripped off the working class, that have shown to do all these things, that person would not have stood a chance absent a complicit media. So what we're saying here is no fear for you, John. Let me just tell you that I've looked at some numbers, and I continue to say it's not even going to be a close election. I know all the pundits are telling you a close election. It's not even going to be close because America is waking up and they know wrong from right. And even though we make mistakes every so often, we always have come around. From the Red Scare, we came around. We come around. Anything else, John, before I go to Joe?
Yeah, well, it just that it frightened me because I happen to know one of the young ladies. And I've known her since she was 2 or 3 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
and for her to spew recycled stuff that's old, it tells me, how did they reach her? How did that happen?
Oh,
Hmm.
I want to interrupt you there. I want to interrupt you there
Okay.
because I want to interrupt you there. But you said, how did they reach her? That is something I've been talking to the not only the party but the activists for a long time. You know how they reached her? Nobody else did. They reached her because nobody else
Exactly.
did.
That's, that's exactly my point.
Yes,
I think the Democratic Party needs to be more aggressive about their advertising and their push. It's just, I'll leave you with this one quote, and it's from Bertrand Russell.
hmm
And man is not stupid, not born stupid. He's made that way through education.
exactly, exactly. I love that. Thank you very much, John, for your call. I appreciate you.
Sure.
And let me just
Thank
say,
you.
when we talk about reaching people, um, Trump and his allies have been up in the Latino community and in the Black community very hard. And these are things that, when we talk about the elitism of of the Democratic establishment, this is what I'm talking about. Trump has been in the Latino community while the Democratic Party for several times have ignored it. He's been in the Black community when for several times the Democratic Party has forgotten it. They have been promoting their ads in Latino radio, Black radio, etc., for a long time. They've been creating a message for a long time. So, I mean, it's not surprising to me that we find that there's a whole lot of work to do for a neglected community. But we'll go. Let's go to Brother Joe. Come on in, Joe. Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning, Egberto. I got an interesting email this weekend.
hmm
I got an email from Mr. I think his name is Andrew Torba, the CEO of Gab Social.
hmm
I'm sure you've heard of it. It's the uncensored free speech social media platform. He was contacted by the authorities, and they requested information. Apparently, the would-be Trump assassin had an account there at Gab, and he
hmm
posted a total of 9 times. And Torba's the kind of guy that, he's all about transparency. So he turned around and he published many of the posts, and he published the request, and he's waiting for a subpoena to get that information that the would-be Trump assassin posted on his website. And the funny thing is his 9 posts reflect exactly what you say, right? In fact, he even quoted the same PNAS article that you did last week, arguing that illegal immigrants could commit less crime, and that kind of like intellectual. I mean, it was all intellectually dishonest, right? And it's a narrative that fed this guy, and it's a narrative that you continue to feed your listeners when you call people psychopaths, or when you make straw man arguments like that PNAS article. That so what if illegal immigrants commit crime at a lower rate per capita? The fact is, they commit crime, and if you eliminate illegal immigration or illegal immigrants, you could cut crime by what, 20%? Right. So I mean, your argument is meritless, and it's a distraction, like pretty much everything you say. And like Trump's a convicted sexual predator. What a distortion that is, dude. You should be ashamed of yourself. You
It's
should be
okay.
freaking.
Let's see. I just gave you 2 minutes, so now it's time for me to ask you a couple of questions. Did Trump violate women? Yes or no? As far as you're concerned, everybody who has
I don't know,
claimed
dude.
that.
I wasn't there.
Okay, so let me
I
ask you
wasn't
this
there.
then.
I don't know, and neither do you.
But he was convicted of it, right? Based on evidence that
Convicted
people have
where?
brought in.
What conviction is a criminal term.
Okay,
That's a criminal.
he was found liable because of the
Criminal
statute of
court.
limitation, right?
What
Because of the
criminal court? What criminal court convicted him?
All right, let me back up. Because I want to correct myself. He was found liable in a court that he did the things that he did. And the reason we had to go that route is that the statute of limitation expired, correct? That's a yes or no question, sir.
What's the standard of proof in a civil court versus a criminal court?
Again, the
Is it
only
higher or
reason
lower?
it's lower. It only went to a civil court because the statute of limitation expired. The judge in the case, in fact, said if this were in the criminal courts, this would actually be called rape. All right, and that is, and it's not that.
That's
But
your opinion,
but
dude.
let's sure, that's fine. But I'm saying, even if that's just my opinion, what's interesting is that his behavior towards women, it's not something that's unknown. And it's not like those are the only people that have accused him. And it's not like out of his mouth didn't come like he abuses women. He says, I can lay a kiss on women anytime I want because I'm a star. They like it. I can pull their crutches. This is a former president of the United States, and this is somebody that you likely have voted for that said, I grab women by their stuff. But it's not only and that came out of his mouth, and so there's no question about that. It's also a fact. I mean, let me tell you, I know you want to go on several little things, but I want to entertain you a minute here because we also have an audience. Anybody voting for Trump, I don't care how you want to defend him, Brother Joe, but this guy stole from his charity for personal use. That is a fact. This guy created a fraudulent university and built the people who joined the university, and he paid a $25 million fine. That's a fact. This guy stiffed workers who worked for him at his hotels. That's a fact. And that is who you're voting for, my brother. If any other person had done that, many people would have objections to voting for such a flawed character. You chose to do it. And like I told a friend who is upset with me, because I told a friend this, I said, when you make your vote, look in your daughter's eyes, look in your son's eyes, and tell them you want them to be a law-abiding citizen that respects women, because that's who you're voting for. So please, my dear brother, let's not talk about what's going on with immigration. Let's not talk about all of that kind of stuff when the person you are voting for is such a, and I say this not I'm not saying this in hyperbole, is a damn psychopath. Continue, sir.
It's that kind of rhetoric that's going to make things worse and worse and worse. And
okay,
when I'm voting,
Joe, did I say anything that was false, Joe?
I think about them dying in World War III. I think about them
All right.
dying.
All right, Joe, we're not going anywhere. We're not going to get anywhere because, again, I said you have to tell your kid that you voted for a guy that did those things, and you want to change the subject. Thank you, Joe. We'll talk tomorrow, I promise. We'll talk. All right. All right, let's go to Brother Donald. Come on in, Donald.
Good morning, Umberto. How are you?
I am fine, my brother. Talk to me.
Okay, on your Friday show, you called yourself some words that I don't believe you know the true meaning of them.
What did I call myself, sir?
And you're a flawed human being that made mistakes and was not educated in the proper fashion. An SOB, I don't believe you know the exact definition of that word. You're not that, and your mother's not that. And I know you don't mean that.
No, I don't.
It's like other words that we throw around.
Yes.
We don't understand understand the true impactual meaning of it, because if you stop to analyze it, that's why I've explained to you and thrown it out there a few times. I do experiments all the time, constant. If you take yourself out of a situation and you turn into an alien from another planet or another universe, and you come in and look at both sides of the story, and you look at what's being said, and you look at the way the actions and the interactions are, and you can put it in yourself, or from your perspective, from an alien looking from the outside in, you will see the life through a different lens.
I
And
like
that's
that
when you
actually.
become woke.
I
That
love
is
that.
when you become woke. It's not from one side or the other side. Come in as Egberto Willis, the alien, and I don't think you ever got the picture I drew of you. It was called EW,
Yes,
like
sir.
ET, and it's
Yes,
got
sir.
your fingers sticking at the mic, touching our hearts. Of course, I was a smart ass and I over exaggerated all the facial features and everything, but I don't know if you ever got the
Well,
whole
look,
point was
I'm going to ask you to do this. I'm going to ask you to send it to me again, brother. Okay? Because you're a good guy.
okay.
Anyway, thank you, Donald. You're a good man.
All right.
All right, let's go to Joni. Come on in, Joni. How are you doing this morning, Joni?
Good morning, Egberto. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So 2 points. One of them, the Republicans today under Trump are from the camp of Rudy Giuliani, who ascribes to the perspective that there's no such thing as truth. I think that's a direct quote. There's no such thing as truth, meaning I guess the implication is it's whatever you can make people believe. So that's that camp, the Trump camp. Number two, I know someone who was a locksmith for the Atlantic City casino that Trump owned, who did not get paid thousands of dollars working on locks. So these things are the truth. I'm sorry that they have to ascribe to someone with less than stellar morals, but that's where it is, and I guess they're falling for exactly what their boy Giuliani said, which is there's no such thing as truth. It's whatever you can make people believe. Anyway, that's really all I have
But
to say.
Joni, before you go, because I'm glad you brought that up, because I mean, a lot of folks are trying to find just like you have people that know that a Vice President Harris is more qualified than Trump, both intellectually and otherwise. They try to find a reason not to vote for her. People that would normally, let's say, vote for a Democrat, some of them would try to find a reason not to vote for her, as if you heard John earlier about, oh, she gets mad, oh, she is this or that. And the same goes with some people try to find a reason to justify why they will vote for a somebody of the moral depravity that Trump represents, right? And a friend of mine said this. A friend of mine said this. He said, I am voting for Trump. Now, I know he's a bad guy, but it's an economic decision, right? And I paused for a while and I said, I want to ask you a simple question. Is your 401k much higher than it was, not right after the pandemic, but during the highs of Donald Trump? Is the rate of increase of your 401k better or worse? He reluctantly said it is better. I said, so what is it about the economy? Inflation. I said, but isn't it true that the inflation is really caused by the corporations who decide to raise prices? Yes. Isn't it true that inflation should be caused by shortages? Yes. Please tell me what there's a shortage of in our country right now. Not really anything that the prices are high for, which means it's a corporate thing, a Republican thing that causes inflation.
Yeah.
And he just sits back and he's like, So again, even the reasons that those who don't like Trump claim to be voting for Trump is a false reason, which then ponders the question, what is the real reason? And we won't discuss that another day. There is a real reason why they're voting for him. Go ahead, my sister.
It was disturbing to me that before Biden stepped down that they were asking, well, who would take Biden's place? And I was like, of course it would be Kamala. I mean, I don't even know why they were skipping over her. But then when he finally did step down, I am so glad he had the wherewithal and this is the kind of, he is actually being the selfless, more, if you will, Christian, in terms of what I grew up understanding Christianity to be, which is be kind one to another, be willing to sacrifice for the betterment of the all, that kind of a thing. Biden was actually willing to do that so that he could watch what his presidency could actually accomplish by having
Exactly.
capable, very intelligent woman become our first president, our first black president, black female president, and Asian female president. So thank you, Biden, and Egberto, thank you for what you do.
Thank you
I'm gonna
so
let you.
kindly, Joni. You have a wonderful day. Let's go to Brittany. I think is that BRTTY? Brittany, line 6. You're on.
Betty.
Betty, come on in, Betty.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to say what John said about the three females. Well, when you get three of them bunched together, all of them going to probably say the same thing. It's a woman's prerogative to change her mind, and they'll probably change their mind again. But what I want to say about Kamala, she's on top of everything. And Trump is not on top of nothing. All he does is talk about his belt or where his grass grows around. And, that's why he talks like he does, because he's not on top of anything.
Right.
And the people just going for that right now. And, the moon is out here, Alberto. See the moon.
I hear you, Betty. Look, thank you.
Well, yeah, I'll let you go. I had to tell about John and the three women, and
Thank you so kindly, Betty. You make my day every time you call. Thank you so kindly. All right, I want to welcome Norman Reynolds in the chat. How you doing, brother? Normal, he says, have a great morning, Egberto. You too, my brother. Jinx Cat says you are quickly becoming an absolute go-to channel for me. Thank you, Jinx. You just made my day. I do appreciate that, and we have. Old Reprobate says, no knowledge about Siemens, Egberto. Hey, I just rode the bike. I did the MS 150. That's why I have the Siemens shirt on. I have no alliance with the company or whatever, nor do I remember what they do. I think they're a chemical company. I'm not sure. But anyway, let's go to brother Billy. Come on in, Billy.
Hello.
Hello, you're on, Billy.
Yeah, great. First I gotta say I've been listening to your show for a while. I really enjoy it.
Thank you, sir.
And I usually just stay in the background, but this is a real important situation our country's in right now, and I just can't understand why people are battling over who's gonna vote for which bad guy, and nobody says anything at all about Kennedy. He's a choice. Nobody promotes Kennedy because if they go for Trump, they got enemies against people with Harris. They go for Harris, they got enemies against people for Trump. But, what about Kennedy? They don't want all them enemies from Trump and Harris against them, But he's an obvious choice. And if there's anything bad about him, I would like for somebody to let me know, because I haven't been able to find anything.
All right. I don't know that I'll say anything bad, but the one thing that anybody who is anti-vax, for me, I cannot have as my president. So I mean, he may kind of back out on that right now, but it's not that is just one thing. I could go ahead and name a list of things why I don't think the person is qualified, though I do think he's more qualified than Trump, but I don't think he's that's not a big hurdle to cross. But that said, from a practical standpoint, he doesn't have ballot access in states that it's equivalent to 270 votes. Okay, which means there is no way he can be president unless he had ballot access in enough states that he could actually win that adds up to 270 votes. He doesn't have that at this time. Anything else, Billy?
I'm sorry, but I didn't catch that very first thing you said about what you didn't like about him.
Oh, the one thing, okay, that he isn't, he's anti-vax. If you go ahead and follow the entire Kennedy record, okay, he's anti-vax, and when he makes a statement of the fact that Biden is a lot worse than Donald Trump, to me that is a disqualifying statement. When you just itemize what we're talking about. And when I say that, in other words, if you're going to make a statement, that sort of statement, let's itemize what each person represent, what each person has done, and then give me that answer, because I don't think you're going to find that. So that's my only situation, Billy. Anything
Okay.
else? Thank you, my brother. Appreciate your call, sir. Keep listening, and you keep calling as well. Let's go ahead and go to Johnny. Come on in, brother Johnny.
When Hey Joe with his rhetorical gun in his hand, smugly, calmly asserts to you his version of reality, i.e., it's going to get worse and worse and worse, all this violent rhetoric. Yeah, it is going to get worse and worse, Joe, all this violent rhetoric coming out of the mouth of your boy. Like when they took a shot at him. By the way, he never got shot. He got shot at. The worst he suffered was like a mosquito bite to the ear. So, what was his reaction when he stood back up after the Secret Service stood him up? With an angry, sour, nasty face and mouthing the words 3 or 4 times, he said, "Fight, fight, fight," and he was pumping his fist in the air. That is not a leader, and that is your guy, okay? And don't forget, in addition to all the stuff the listeners and Egberto has pointed out to you, let's not forget that he promised the American people on the campaign trail that he was wealthy enough that he would work for free for the American people. He would take no, zero, zip, nada presidential salary for 4 years. But at the end of 4 years, Donald Trump made off with more than $1.6 billion as in B as in boy, $1 billion. And when you do the math, Joe, and I think you're smart enough to work a calculator, you can figure out that that amount of money is equal to over 1,000 times the amount of presidential salary the American people would have paid him. So where did all that money come from, Joe? I tell you where some of it come from, if not most of it, when he squirreled away all those secret documents he didn't have a right to do. And then he translated that into money, like for his son-in-law, $2 billion from a Saudi prince. Why does a foreign government give a private citizen $2 billion? The same reason why they give Donald Trump $1.6 billion to betray you and me and everybody else in between, Joe. So there you go. And tomorrow I'll tell you why we need to not let our guard down, Egberto. This thing is not over. It's over when
No.
it's over. And I'm afraid that all the centrist leaders of this party is going to put a false sense of security in the mind of people, and they're not going to get out and vote like they should. And it's not over. And I'll get into
No, it's Johnny, you're absolutely right that it's not over. And I think what I have seen both in the activist world, I'm not talking about the Democratic establishment world. I'm talking about the activist world that's looking to vote just for people that represent the average American citizen, the working class. They're not going to let this go. So I want to hear what you have to say tomorrow, but they're not going to let it go. Thank you, my brother. Let's get to Harry.
What?
Harry, you're on, my brother.
Good morning, Berto Willis. Good morning,
Good morning.
Howard. Good morning, Jack. Well, I hope that doesn't happen. What the mayor of politics done right was saying there. I hope people do get out there and vote. This is very important. We don't want. You have 2 choices now. I hope Kamala Harris. I mean, you have more than 2 choices, but we know it's going to be one of them. But I hope Kamala Harris and the Democratic camp gets the right vice president for her to strengthen that ticket, because she is raising a lot of money right now. And like you said earlier to John Eberto, people are being smarter. Are going to be smart? Do they want a misogynist? Do they want a convict? Do they want a person who stiffs people, as Joni was saying there about the locksmith? It just proves your point, how that locksmith was not paid because Donald Trump stiffed him. People need to listen to that Mitt Romney speech when I have repeated it on here many times. Here's what I know. Donald Trump's a phony, a fraud. His promises are as worthless as a degree from Trump University, as you pointed out, Roberto, how he ripped off people who went to his Trump University and stiffed them, all those things. So we just have to be smart. And as Amy Goodman has said about with the sexual stuff with the women, can do anything. Grab women by the private parts. Do you want a misogynist, a convict in the White House? Now, I read some stuff on that Karen McDougal, Stormy Daniels thing here over the weekend, and the prosecutors in that case in New York were saying that the official acts do not apply here, the evidence is overwhelming, and the Trump lawyers are trying to say that immunity applies here, and the judge is going to make some decision on September 5th, and then there'll be a ruling, and hopefully, Howard Reynolds, you'll be right, Donald Trump will implode, and we'll see what happens with that. I would hope that he does some jail time if the ruling comes down that he is, they rule on it that, he's guilty of all those
Harry, gotcha.
Convictions.
Thank you very much for your call, Harry. I want to play a video here, but I got Brian on the other line, so I'm going to get Brian and then play the video, which is real important. I want people to hear themselves. Come on in, brother Brian. You're on.
Yes. Next time anybody picks up a bunch of aluminum cans, donate the proceeds to the station here.
Thank you very much for that, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Now I touched on this Friday, and I have to go back to it. Kamala Harris and Biden is going to be in Houston this week. One is to attend Sheila Jackson Lee's celebration of life. Can't wait to see what he looks like. Be the first time we've seen him. And the other is Kamala Harris phone called the last woman that was shot and killed by the police officer, who shouldn't have been a police officer in the first place. But she never called the Dungaree family and apologized for her and Biden's disastrous border policy. She should take blame for the death of that 13-year-old child that was raped, strangled, and thrown in the bayou like a piece of garbage. She should be held responsible. Biden
You know
should
who
be
else
held
she didn't call? She didn't call the two teachers in Panama that a American citizen shot and killed point blank during because they were in a freeway on the Transismic Highway in Panama. The reason I brought that up, right, is that Brian, and I'm going to say this as kindly as I can, making the immigration issue an issue other than what it is, to rile good people up like you, is absolutely wrong. And if we played that game, if the rest of the world played that game with us, we would be in deep trouble. We are just like you have a lot of people rushing in here. There are a lot of Americans rushing elsewhere. But you don't hear that story on our media, right? You don't hear about the crimes that Americans commit in Jamaica. You don't hear about the crimes Americans commit in Panama. You don't hear about the crimes Americans commit in Costa Rica. So we concentrate on these darn criminals in the United States. And secondly, like I told Joe, whether he wants to accept it or not, the crime rate among immigrants is much lower than the crime rate of born Americans. So look, crime is a problem and should be eradicated everywhere. But what we've done with, hold on. What we've done with the immigration issue here is something that is inhumane. And one of these days, it will be interesting if the rest of the world dealt with Americans the way we want to deal with some of the immigrants that come over here. Continue, sir.
Okay, first off, there's been 8 Americans murdered by illegal aliens so far. 8.
Okay.
Not just.
All right.
Not
Stop
just
right there. Stop right there. Stop right there. Stop right there. You said 8? Over what period of time is that again?
8.
Over what period of time?
Less than 3 years. Less than 3 years.
Okay. And how many Americans have been killed and murdered in the United States?
Okay, don't throw.
No, no. I asked you a question. Please go ahead and answer the question.
Probably 28 so far this month in just Chicago.
Okay. Thank you.
Probably 28 this month. Just in. Okay. Now, where do you get your numbers that immigrants commit less crime?
Well,
What
the
national
FBI.
agency compiles this information? The FBI does not.
Look,
Okay.
again, it's a lot of different. Look, it's a.
Check the FBI.
Sir,
You
sir,
can check the FBI.
sir.
They do not
Hold on.
compile these
Brian,
statistics.
Brian, we can have a calm discussion. Brian, we can have a calm discussion. I know that's sort of your modus
Not
operandi, but
comply.
we can have a calm.
Not comply.
It's. Let me tell you, there is a report made here in Texas. I should have said the report in Texas. Okay, there's a report right here in Texas. I think it was by the University of Texas, which I went ahead and printed in my newsletter a few weeks ago. That actually has all the numbers for you. Okay, I'll go ahead and look that up again and make it available to you. And it does include FBI data, but it's more than the FBI data because the FBI data is not up to date. But continue.
Okay. That's incorrect. Okay. There's no governmental agency. There may be a state agency that compiles arrest records, but they don't compile them and compare them to illegal aliens that don't commit crimes. That's a false statement.
No, it's not a false statement, sir. But again, I'm not. Look, Brian. We're not going to argue about that because again, these numbers are numbers out there, and we know that every agency, and in fact, the agency that's specifically, or rather, the group that specifically released that statement that I hear on Fox News and that I hear you say, have actually been refuted, and I'll bring you the article that refuted that. But Brian, I got to go to Patrick before I play a quick thing. You've been on for 5 minutes, so let's go ahead, Patrick. Come on in.
Hey, good morning. I wanted to point out that every time there's a Democratic president or administration, that Republicans lie about there being an open border, and this entices people down here. The Republican Party is using immigrants to get votes. They intentionally give them the impression that there is an open border and that they can just walk in, and that's not it at all. Also, there's been several bills that have been offered that have been vetoed or not passed by predominant Republicans that were supposed to help with the border issue. So not only are we wasting all this money on the border because we're playing political games with these people, the problem is being created by the Republicans to make Democrats look bad, and that's the truth.
Patrick, and yeah, that's been going on for a long time. And what gets to me is that too often Democrats allow themselves to be suckered into that position, right? I mean, the truth of the matter is, if we went ahead and spoke the truth, the problem is speaking the truth. There's a lot of money in this immigration thing. Money to pay for holding these people in private centers, money to build the private camps. I mean, there is so much money in here. Do you think Trump cares about whether immigrants are illegal or not? After all, his wife, if I don't recall, one of his wives, if I don't recall, wasn't here legally. She was working without on a vacation visa or something like that. So it's amazing who they call illegal immigrants, right? It's or undocumented immigrants. Most of the people aren't the ones coming south of the border. It's the people coming in on by air or crossing by Canada and staying here and getting apartments, all that kind of stuff. Nobody asks them. So Patrick, you nailed it. Now, it's about otherizing others and creating a boogeyman to scare people. And they do it with black people. They do it with Latino people. They did it once with Japan. You know, when when Japan was buying a whole lot of assets in the United States of America, they made Japanese the straw people taking over the country or whatever. It's a standard modus operandi. Continue, please, Patrick.
Well, that's pretty much it. But I do encourage your listeners to Google open border myth, and you can learn a lot that way.
Thank you very much, Patrick. You have a wonderful day. And Johnny, can you do a quick one for me? I want to play this one video.
Yes, I can. I'm racking my brain trying to remember what year. So I'm asking you, do you know offhand what year the Republicans passed that law that told law enforcement agencies that they can no longer collate their gun violent death data in their community and virtually across the whole country? Do you know what year that happened?
I don't remember what year it is, but I think it was the same time that they made researching the effects of guns illegal. Imagine that.
Yeah, I just can't remember. I'm pretty sure sometime during Obama. I just can't remember which year exactly. So maybe our friend who likes to be so strident and so urgent in his voice can tell you calmly tomorrow.
Yeah, look, all of us, what drives me the most crazy, Johnny, and only have 30 seconds I can say this. What drives me the most crazy is everybody that calls here, right, that we talk. These are people that are interested in doing something or interested in getting something good doing. And it's amazing what misinformation can do. And I'm hoping that because they're here, eventually, I know wishful thinking, but I've seen it happen. People will start saying, you know what, I better rethink my position. And look, I'm the host and I've rethought my positions before. Okay? I've rethought my position. Anyway, thank you, my brother.
Brian is coming around. You're right that Brian is coming around. He's always asking for people to donate. That's a good sign. I tell you, I'm still hopeful for Brian. And as far as Hey Joe with the gun in his hand goes, he's learned not to be so strident. You notice how calm he is and smug?
No, again, we respect, again, what I said, you don't have to agree. What you have to do is respect people's humanity. And again, there are times I'll swear I want to shake Joe. But I also know if I saw Joe in a coffee shop, I'll give Joe a big hug and say, let's have a coffee, slap him on the back and say, get with the program, damn it, my brother. And it works. If it comes from the heart, it works. Go ahead, brother.
He needs a box of Shipley donuts and some milk to calm him down.
All right, Joe, you hear that? We are going to take you out for some Shipley's donuts and milk. For me, it has to be coffee, though. Thank you, Johnny. You have a good one. Hey, guys, I'm going to play this one real quick, and then we'll call it a day. This is what Trump said earlier this week. Donald Trump at Turning Point Action. How do you know the wannabe autocrat, the wannabe dictator's mind is failing? I'll tell you why. Because he doesn't think logically and he exposes himself. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
I don't care how, but you have to get out and vote. And again, Christians, get out and vote. Just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
So, yeah, he comes out and he's panicking now. He wants people to go out and vote. He wants Christians, as if Christians only belong to Republicans, right? He wants Christians to go out and vote because he thinks that he owns the Christian votes. What he means is that he owns the evangelical Christians that he purchased, that whose leaders he purchased. That's what he's talking about. He wants them to go out and vote. And he couldn't stop there. He couldn't help himself. His mind doesn't work right. So what does he say? You got to do it this time, but you don't have to worry about it 4 years later because we are going to have it fixed so well that voting is going to be unnecessary. The autocracy will be complete. Okay, look, this guy, I won't use the name. This guy has an issue. Yes, he wants to be an autocrat. but he doesn't really have the mental capacity to be one. But the problem is that the people that are working with him, around him, all the people that will be actually doing the governing, they do. So when you're electing him, we know he's the useful you know what. But when you elect him, what you're doing is electing a group of folks who actually want to inculcate that dictatorship in America. Don't be fooled. We need a landslide. We are working towards a landslide on the Democratic side. We have got to completely expunge the MAGA leadership and ensure that they never get a chance at rebirth, because they represent a clear and present danger to the United States of America. Anyway, folks, by the way, if you need to send me an email, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Una vez más, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Anyway, folks, look, we are near the end of the show. So at this point in time, I pass it along to our geniuses in the studio.
Well, thank you, because we had a caller ask about your email address. So I got it wrong. I told him the wrong one, but it's kpft@politicsright.com, is it?
kpft@politicsdoneright.com.
There we go. I hope that listener got the message. Nothing from me, Egberto. It's DEFCON 2 as far as the presidential election goes. So be careful. Jack, what you got?
This aggression will not stand, man.
Thank you very much, my brother. Anyway, folks, want to thank you guys for listening. Callers, love you. All of you. Listeners, love you. All of you. Jack, Howard, love you. Anyway, folks, we got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. In 21
recording